As the top civil official, my husband treated me very well, but his final wish on his deathbed was to be buried alongside my elder sister, Song Jiqing. I've spent my whole life with you, yet never had the chance to express my feelings to Jiqing. All I ask for in my remaining life is to rest in the same tomb with her. Will you promise me this? I stared at his aged face, which had been loving to me all my life, and was stunned. Ah, so you never liked me, I wailed, whenever I crave something. You buy snacks every day and then come home, I'm afraid of the cold, so you sleep holding my feet every day. His beard is already white, yet he still pretends to be a young male lead, singing to cheer me up. Now you're actually saying you want to sleep with your sister forever. My dear eldest son adds the final blow. Yes, father, have you gone mad? Didn't you just say a few days ago you'd risk your old face to petition for another imperial title for mother? My husband, Wen Yanqing, barely holds on to his breath, unable to bear me any longer. Don't let your tears fall on me. I never actually liked you, but you're so naive, so easy to fool. You didn't even realize it. Now, I'm going to be with Jiqing, with her. When Yanqing collapsed onto the bed with a thud and breathed his last despite my grief, I still fulfilled my husband's wish and erected a tomb for him and my sister. Concerned about my loneliness, my children found me a blessed resting place, where only unmarried national heroes were buried, making it easier for me to find a new companion. But the moment I truly lay down, I was reborn, returning to the banquet where I first met Wen Yanqing, after 20 years apart. Wen Yanqing was still as radiant and charming as ever, but now I know, it was useless to look anyway. His eyes were fixed on my sister at this moment. Wen Yanqing was acting as the command officer in the drinking game, issuing orders when it was his sister's turn to give the command. His expression was unusually gentle, with gold and jade. Please answer, Miss Song. In my previous life, seeing my sister lost in thought and silent, afraid she would be punished with wine, I answered for her randomly, preventing her from speaking a single word with Wen Yanqing. But afterward, Wen Yanqing often invited us sisters out to play. Mostly, I would talk while he smiled. I thought he liked me, but I misunderstood. It was truly embarrassing. I tugged at my sister's sleeve and whispered, "Sister, stop daydreaming, bring the gold and jade." Only then did my sister snap back to reality, quickly regaining her composure. Jinyu, a single meeting between golden wind and jade dew surpasses countless moments in the mortal world. A smile, one I had never seen in my previous life, curled at Wen Yanqing's lips, relieved and utterly joyful, as if he were the golden wind and she the jade dew. Finally reunited after a long while, he came to his senses and turned to me, giving the command, "Recite a line of poetry that contains the word flower." It was a very simple command, so simple that it required no planning at all, but I couldn't answer. No poetic or picturesque words came to mind. I punished myself by drinking a cup of wine. When Yanqing paused, then said nothing more to me. After the banquet ended, my sister and I were just about to get into the carriage to return home when Yanqing stopped us. He said he wanted to speak with me for a few words. Looking at his eyes, which seemed to see through everything with calm certainty, I knew he had also been reborn. I walked with him to a spot 10 steps away from the carriage before he spoke. "I never expected you to come back too, and today you actually helped your sister." "I didn't help, I just didn't want to be overly sentimental anymore." Wen Yanqing sighed, "I treated you well in our previous life. Don't resent me in this lifetime. Let's each take care of ourselves." "Alright, I don't blame you, don't overthink it. Why are you so obedient?" "Don't worry, there are plenty of fine young men in the capital, no worse than me. Let me plan for you." I interrupted him. "Don't worry about things that don't concern you, just mind your own business. I don't need you. To be honest, in my past life, you weren't there, and I still lived for another 20 years. When Yanqing invited his sister to travel together, I got into the carriage alone and returned to the minister's residence. No one was around, and I let out a sigh. In my previous life, when Yanqing treated me very well, a man who could make senior officials spit blood in the court never said a harsh word to me, except for the last words before his death, when he called me naive and easily deceived. Unfortunately, he doesn't like me, but it can't be that there's something wrong with me. There must be something he hasn't figured out. Even if he doesn't like me, How could a normal person hold it in for a lifetime? But he does have good taste in liking my elder sister. Songjitching. In my memory, my elder sister was well educated, beautiful, and graceful, and she treated me exceptionally well. It's just that her temperament grew increasingly reclusive, and she always wore a troubled expression in her previous life. She had an excellent marriage arrangement, but for some reason, she broke off the engagement, traveled far to the frontier to become a medical practitioner, and then encountered war and famine, catching a cold and passing away early in the previous life. It was Wen Yanqing who accompanied me to the frontier to retrieve my sister's remains, a person like a flower, leaving only a withered skeleton. If my sister were to be cared for by a man as considerate as Wen Yanqing in this life, she would surely have a happy life. Just like me in my previous life, I returned home, and my mother had already sent someone to bring me Osmanthus cake. Asking why my sister hadn't come back with me, I said when Yanqing sent her back, mother was somewhat delighted. That top scholar, the Wen family, 3 generations of civil officials. I nodded. Your sister allowed him to escort her? Yes. My always dignified and composed mother seemed to have found a way out of a desperate situation. So overjoyed that she paced around the room. Mother's happiness made me happy too. In my previous life, my sister passed away early, and I received all of mother's love alone. In this life, it's only right that my sister gets to enjoy mother's care in this life. My sister is happy, my parents are happy, and I must also rely on myself to find a happy life. I twisted my handkerchief and spoke up. Mother, I want to go stay with our maternal grandparents in Jiangnan for a while, to learn about business, accounting, weaving, and pottery. I may not be as good at studying as my sister, but I still need skills to rely on. My mother stopped in her tracks. Why go so far away? I can teach you too. Many talented youths hail from the lands east of the river. Mother clapped her hands and began to daydream again. That's fine too. Since your father has no sons, you can just pick a talented young man from the Jiangnan gentry to marry into our family. 2 hours later, my sister finally returned and immediately shut herself in her room, refusing to let mother in. Mother asked me to go in and find out what was going on. I leaned on the table to talk to her, bringing up what happened today, and I said, when Yanqing likes you, and honestly, he's a good person. My sister looked as if she had just woken from a dream. So that's how it is. She pulled out a thick notebook from under the mattress, turned to a new page, and wrote down Wen Yanqing's name. What are you doing? Write it down. There are so many people who like me. How can I remember them all if I don't write it down? I never expected my usually reserved and gentle sister to be as confident as me. I flipped through the pages, and sure enough, there were records of one young master after another. Besides the names of those men, there were also their characteristics. For example, when Yanqing, my sister, had hastily written 2 large characters. Talkative. I never thought that someone as aloof and reserved as him would one day be described as talkative. It turns out that genuine affection is ultimately different. As I flipped through the pages, I came across another familiar name, the heir of the Duke's family, my sister's betrothed in her previous life. His evaluation was actually distinctly different. These 2 words were too strange, as if he were comparing the crown prince to someone else. I suddenly realized something. Sister, do you have someone in your heart? My sister was no longer in that detached, absent-minded state. Her eyes brightened for a moment, then she let out a low sigh, as if weighed down by the question, struggling to breathe. Who is it? Is he more handsome than Wen Yanqing? Does he have Wen Yanqing's talent? My sister glanced at me and said nothing, as if comparing him to Wen Yanqing was an insult to that person. I sighed. There really is someone in this world that even Wen Yanqing can't compare to. Sister looked suspicious. What do you mean? You don't actually like Wen Yanqing, do you? I quickly chuckled. No. I mean, I want to find a man even better than Wen Yanqing. After learning my sister's true feelings, I stopped helping Wen Yanqing. But Wen Yanqing, no longer burdened by the self-restraint and timidity of his past life, became more composed and decisive, no longer hiding his feelings. He often visits the mansion and always invites my sister to go out. My sister always refused, making mother frantic with worry. Only once, when we went horseback riding for a spring outing, did he invite both of us sisters. and only then did my elder sister agree to go. When I arrived at the agreed meeting place, I realized that when Yanqing's colleagues and friends were also there were many people, and it was bustling with activity when no one was paying attention. When Yanqing rode his horse close to my side, "Why does your sister keep refusing my invitation?" I hesitated for a moment, then said coldly, "Perhaps you should ask her directly." When Yanqing, however, was sizing me up, "Did you say something behind my back, making your sister prejudiced against me?" Song Zai. "Don't waste your efforts, I won't be with you." I spoke gently, "You won't fall for me, and you hope I'll behave myself and stop bothering you, right? Don't worry, I've remembered, no need to repeat it." When Yanqing was left speechless, after a long pause, he spoke condescendingly, "As long as you remember, the men who came today are all decent, well known to us. You should meet them as well, I'll make arrangements for you." I gritted my teeth and said, "Are you crazy? I told you not to worry about it. Besides, they'll all get married in the future. How could they have anything to do with me? These men are not only married and living happily, but their wives are also my good friends from my previous life. We often gathered to play cards, and they weren't as skilled as me, often feeding me winning tiles, but whenever I boasted about my victories to Wen Yanqing, he would always scoff and say that those ladies were deliberately feeding me tiles to make me happy, all because of his influence. They care so much about me, so I must not ruin their marriage. But Wen Yanqing didn't mind at all. "So what? I only consider you. Besides, how do you know they wouldn't be willing?" I pouted. "I don't need you to consider me. What do you take me for? The wife from your past life who needed you to worry about everything? Do you still like me?" When Yanqing suddenly changed his expression, "Don't mention that. Is it appropriate for a girl like you to always talk about liking someone anyway? If you're not doing well, your sister will be unhappy too. I don't want your sister to worry." He spurred his horse and rode off, catching up with his sister to continue talking. I followed behind, chatting idly with those noble young masters amidst the spring scenery of the suburbs and the rustic charm of the mountains. They flaunt their literary talents like peacocks. She even excitedly invited me to compose poetry together, but I don't want to watch them show off. Otherwise, when I meet their wives in the future, I won't be able to win money with a clear conscience. I gave an awkward smile. To be honest, I'm not literate, but suddenly, an idea struck me. I can read palms, yes, read fortunes. Under a big tree, those men lined up and extended their hands toward me. I looked down at them. "Your wife has an apricot-shaped face with willow leaf eyebrows, big eyes, and two small dimples when she smiles. Your wife is a master at managing the household, helping you build wealth and prosperity. You're afraid of your wife, aren't you?" Even though outsiders say she's a delicate beauty like she sure, they were skeptical. But I recalled my friend from the previous life, and smiled with certainty. "Trust me, I'm always right." Suddenly, another hand reached in front of me. It was a slender, sharp hand, with prominent bones, even larger than my face. The fingers and palms were covered with a thin layer of calluses, appearing rough and sturdy, not the hands of a scholar. A strange, low, and hoarse voice came, "Trouble Miss Song to also read my fortune in marriage." I looked up and met a pair of deep and bright eyes. His eyes were like the boundless depths of a dark night, drawing one in at a glance. Someone nearby spoke up, "General Pei, what brings you here? What a refined interest you have." Only then did I snap back to reality, noticing the man's handsome yet weathered face. This was General Pei, Pei Yuan. His life was a roller coaster of highs and lows, starting with glory and ending in tragedy. First, he was the son of the Marquis of Xuanwu, a young general. Then he abandoned his official post, gave away his wealth, and became a monk, all because in his previous life, while guarding the border, a severe drought struck, leaving the people on the brink of starvation, and unfortunately, 100,000 formidable enemies invaded, putting the border in peril. Faced with two evils, Pei Yuan made a heavy and terrifying choice. To win the brutal war, he seized the people's grain, securing the territory, yet starved countless commoners to death. Thus, in the court, he was a renowned hero, but among the people, he was a tyrant cursed by all. When Yanqing once lamented that he became a monk because he could not overcome the guilt of seizing the grain, but the current Pei Yuan has not yet shouldered such a heavy fate, he answered casually, his tone lazy. Training troops, just taking a break here. Then he turned to me again, his hand still outstretched before me. Miss Song, have you noticed anything? Of course, I couldn't tell the truth. So I stammered out, General Pei will get his wish. Oh, he withdrew his large hand, a faint, ambiguous smile curling at the corner of his lips, his voice lazy yet laced with curiosity. And you, Miss Song, have you ever calculated your own fate in love? What kind of traits does your partner have? Me, calculated it or not? Haha, I twisted my sleeves, always fidgeting when I didn't know what to do. Song Zai, a voice came from not far away. I quickly turned my head and saw Wen Yanqing calling me. He shouted at me, "What are you doing here? Where's your sister?" I didn't know why he was asking that, but he was chasing after my sister, yet she wasn't by his side now. My heart started racing anxiously. Where's my sister? Wasn't she with you? When Yanqing glared at me with a furrowed brow, she said she was coming to find you. I was completely confused. I haven't seen her. Where did you two separate? When Yanqing raised his voice even louder, as if scolding me. Was this your plan? Did you deliberately make my sister go missing for my sake? This is the outskirts. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is for her out here? The surroundings were silent, with only the rustling of leaves in the wind, unsettling my mind. Me. For you? What do you mean? When Yanqing let out a cold scoff. You know exactly what I mean. Although Daxing was a place with open-minded customs, being openly spoken to in such a manner by a man would clearly harm my reputation. When Yanqing knew, but he didn't care. Suddenly, a low chuckle came from Pei Yuan beside him. The young lady doesn't want to go with you. Instead of reflecting on your own shortcomings, you're blaming her sister. These words left Wen Yanqing speechless. His gaze shifted suspiciously between me and Pei Yuan, his voice suddenly low and hesitant. You too? Then he glanced at me coldly. What did you do? Why is he speaking up for you? Pei Yuan raised an eyebrow. Lord Wen, your words are quite strange. How about I explain them to you? But I speak slowly, so by the time I finish, the sun will have set, and we'll have to go home for dinner. No need to go looking for any young lady then. As soon as he said this, everyone changed expression and hurriedly mounted their horses to go find their sister. Only Pei Yuan followed me leisurely, occasionally saying a few words. Don't go this way, the path is slippery, and the horse might lose its footing. Look at that scenery, isn't it beautiful? When Yanqing was utterly speechless. General Pei, this seems to be your territory. Do you know where Song Jiqing might have gone? Pei Yi let out a cold snort. I didn't lose her, so why should I be in a hurry? Though his words were harsh, he appeared calm and composed, as if he was certain his sister would be fine. Only when Yanqing was frantic with worry. Before long, my sister appeared on a small path. She waved her riding crop and smiled, beckoning to me. Zai, I finally see you. When Yanqing was the first to gallop up to her. Where have you been? Everyone was very worried about you. Haha, I got lost for a moment, but I found my way soon enough. Pei Yuan spoke calmly. Miss Song, you should avoid coming to our soldiers' training grounds in the future, lest some people go mad over you. My sister said nothing, lowering her head slightly, as if a budding flower had been drenched by rain. When Yanqing glanced at me, then lowered his head, his eyes seemingly filled with guilt. On the way back, when no one was paying attention, he caught up to me again. I was wrong to blame you today. I was too anxious. My heart felt a bit cold. When Yanqing had never been flustered over me before. All we have is a gentle, flowing time, and two lovely, lively children. I once thought he would always be restrained, always calm and composed, but I never expected him to be so flustered and lose his composure just now. I could only nod and reply to him, as long as sister is fine. That's all that matters. When Yanqing was somewhat surprised. You're not angry. He only offered me apologies, and if I asked for more, I would only bring trouble upon myself. I smiled. You didn't really do anything to me, so why should I be angry? That night, I returned home, holding my pillow, and went to my sister's room to sleep with her. Seeing Pei Yuan today, a sudden flash of insight struck me. I remembered my sister from my past life, how she had chosen to give up a high marriage and go alone to the northwest frontier. I finally understood why, and when my sister went, Pei Yuan was stationed at the border. It was during the time when Pei Yuan was fiercely resisting the foreign tribes, suffering heavy losses, that my sister passed away. Sister, why were you walking alone outside the city today? Were you looking for someone? My sister's expression instantly flustered, as if something she could no longer hide had finally surfaced. I asked again, Sister, are you looking for General Pei? Do you like Pei Yuan? My usually graceful sister let out a quack-like sound. Him? What are you kidding? Are you out of your mind? If you're like this, we can't talk. Then who was that person? My sister pondered for a long time, then shook her head. Anyway, it's impossible now, let's not talk about it. It seemed she wasn't willing to say, and I didn't feel comfortable pressing further. I thought for a moment, then asked the question I had been wanting to ask. Sis, am I really that clueless? My sister chuckled. Did I speak too harshly just now? You're not lacking in sense at all. You have a big heart, open-minded, and that's truly wonderful. I hugged her. Sister, no matter who you like, you need your health to have the capital. No one is worth abandoning your life and everything you have to pursue. You must take good care of yourself. Okay, my sister sighed. If only I were as clear-headed as you. It was just the season when the flowers were about to wither. My parents had already prepared the carriage, and my maternal grandparents had sent someone to take me to Jiangnan. Just before getting on the car, I saw Wen Yanqing coming to look for her sister. Again, the long line of cars aroused his curiosity, and he walked up to me. Where are you going? I replied indifferently. Jiangnan. Wen Yanqing's handsome and refined face showed an expression of shock. Why are you going there? Are you avoiding me? There's no need to go this far. I couldn't help but laugh, interrupting him. Turn the page. Big brother, turn the page. In my past life, I always wanted to go to Jiangnan, but I never made it. Now that I have the chance, I'm naturally heading to Wu country to enjoy myself. Wen Yanqing hesitated slightly. But back then you said Shengjing was also quite good. I smiled. Are you saying that because you don't want me to leave? Wen Yanqing's expression froze for a moment before returning to a cold, detached demeanor. It would be good for the second miss to go to Jiangnan as well. To cultivate a gentle and reserved temperament, I not only need to cultivate my temperament, but I also need to support a man, I retorted with full vigor. When Yanqing let out a mocking laugh. Calm and composed, as you wish. He turned and left. I boarded the carriage, and as the curtain fell, I took one last look at Shengjing. Yes, the past life Shengjing was good, because he was there now. Shengjing remains Shengjing, but whether it's good or not has nothing to do with him anymore. Not long after, something was thrown into the window. I picked it up and saw it was a box, inside which lay a coral jade hairpin, delicate and warm to the touch. It was actually the token of love that Wen Yanqing gave me in my past life. I quickly got off the carriage but didn't see his figure. Upon arriving at my maternal grandparents' home in Jiangnan, I instructed the little maid to sell this jade hairpin. The little maid was still a bit uneasy. Miss, such a beautiful hairpin, won't you wear it? No need. I'm short on money right now. Actually, before coming to Jiangnan, I had already discussed with my parents that once my sister was married, I would ask my maternal grandfather to find a young gentleman from a Jiangnan scholar official family for me to meet. That's why I even brought the betrothal gifts for a matrilocal marriage. But in truth, I had another plan in mind. In my previous life, the great drought in the northwest, which left thousands starving, was not entirely a natural disaster. It was more of a man-made calamity. At that time, Jiangnan actually had grain, but grain merchants colluded to hoard supplies, taking advantage of the drought and war to drive up prices. Local officials also secretly condoned this, which ultimately forced Pei Yuan to seize civilian grain for military supplies due to the lack of provisions. My sister also died in this disaster, so when my maternal grandfather, a royal merchant, taught me how to do business, I used the betrothal gifts to open a grain shop. I also opened branches all the way north near the official roads, dig deep pits, store grain widely. I wrote a letter to Pei Yuan, who had already gone to the northwest to guard the frontier, informing him that I had grain and supplies to lend if needed, and that I would send someone to assist. As soon as my letter arrived, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Almost every day, letters came from the northwest most of the time. It was Pei Yuan talking to himself, sharing interesting stories recorded in the local county annals. Occasionally, he would bring over small items such as a playable zun, a type of Chinese ocarina, painted pottery, or silver coins from the western regions. Looking at these things every day was actually quite interesting. Maybe because he talked too much, I gradually let my guard down and started sharing my own stories. The porcelain I fired had elegant shapes, and the cloth I spun had tight, well-defined textures. It sold very well in the shop, and there were also Persian merchants who came to me to place orders. I also said that once I had saved enough money, I would personally take a large shipload of goods overseas to sell, and at the same time, explore the countries of the South China Sea. Pei Yuan said, "Good." Besides Pei Yuan's letters, my mother and I exchanged the most correspondence. Among them, the story of when Yanqing pursuing my sister was always shared. He would kneel on 3,000 steps to seek a renowned doctor for his sister suffering from a cold. She would make pastries by hand in the middle of the night just because her sister wanted to eat something. Mother always praised Wen Yanqing for his grace, his proper conduct, and his thoughtfulness toward my sister. Most importantly, my sister, who had always been indifferent to marriage, now got along very well with Wen Yanqing. I think Wen Yanqing truly lives up to his name. Even my sister has finally fallen for him. Mother also said I should look for someone like Wen Yanqing. I solemnly wrote back, saying I don't like someone like Wen Yanqing. Mother then specifically wrote back to scold me. "Both of you sisters are giving me a headache. Last year there was no snow, and spring brought no rain. The great drought came as expected." Southern grain merchants keenly sensed the shift in climate and started stockpiling grain, but they had no grain to harvest. Because my mother was in my hands, even my maternal grandparents praised me for my sharp insight, saying I would make a big profit this time. But I didn't earn anything. Those provisions had already been escorted by Pei Yuan's personal guards to the northwest border. My sister also did not go to the northwest again. The situation in the northwest was tense, and Pei Yuan wrote back saying he had received the provisions, asking if I had gone to such lengths for his sake. I replied, "Focus on fighting the war and don't overthink it. The weather has turned hot again, and I keep hearing one piece of good news after another. A great victory in the northwest. Not only were there no civilian casualties from starvation, but a general under Pei Yuan's command also emerged as a rising star, pursuing the enemy for 1,000 miles and reopening the trade routes to the western regions. The emperor was overjoyed. My long-cherished wish has been fulfilled." Pei Yuan wrote to me again, this time on gilded paper. In the letter, he mentioned that he had learned a small spell in the western regions and asked me to write my name on the letter and send it back to him, promising it would ensure my happiness and smooth sailing for the rest of my life. I did as she said. Unexpectedly, the next day, Pei Yuan's reply arrived. I opened the letter and immediately jumped up from my chair. "Ah!" I screamed in fright. The little maid hurried over. "What's wrong, miss?" "Nothing." I quickly stuffed the letter into the bedding. The golden letter paper had originally been written in Pei Yuan's handwriting, but now it had become a neatly written marriage contract, bearing both my name and Pei Yuan's. The little maid peeked around curiously. "Did you run into something unclean?" No. My mind was a jumbled mess. The next day, as I was helping out in the porcelain shop, I turned around and saw a figure as elegant as an orchid and as noble as jade. I rubbed my eyes and realized he was truly handsome, even somewhat familiar. Lord Wen. A self-mocking smile flickered across Wen Yanqing's face. "Why do you act as if you don't recognize me?" I made small talk. "I've been busy with many matters and didn't notice for a moment." "What brings you here, Lord Wen?" "I've been transferred to Jiangnan." "But you, in his previous life, Wen Yanqing had never been transferred from Shengjing, and it took him 20 years to rise to the position of Prime Minister. Wen Yanqing explained without showing his emotions, "I've come here to thoroughly investigate corruption. It turns out it was for the sake of his future. This I can understand. In the previous life, the corruption case in Jiangnan took 10 years to investigate. If Wen Yanqing uses his memories from the past life to quickly resolve this case and replenish the national treasury, he could rise to prominence more swiftly." I smiled. Then I wish you, sir, a swift resolution to the case and a prompt return to the capital. Sooner you return, the sooner I can reunite with my sister. Suddenly, when Yanqing asked, "How are you doing now?" my mind was in a mess. The marriage contract hidden under the bedding kept swirling in my thoughts. Like a merchant ship tossed by stormy waves, I shook my head vigorously, then thought of my business again. Recently, my porcelain and cloth have been selling better and better. If things continue like this, I won't have to worry about making up for the loss from turning the betrothal gifts into provisions. But I no longer have the standing to share these things with Wen Yanqing. I smiled faintly. Very good, Lord Wen. I have something else to attend to, so I'll take my leave now. I bowed and turned to leave, but Wen Yanqing blocked my path, his gaze burning into me. Zai, why aren't you wearing that hibiscus hairpin? In the last life, you always wore it in your hair. I stammered. Did you give me that hairpin? Of course, I thought it was already mine. So I sold it. I lowered my head, feeling guilty as I mumbled, I didn't expect to see you again, and you're still asking this question. If you really miss that jade hairpin, I can only compensate you with 500 taels. Because that's all I sold it for. When Yanqing panted heavily, shaking her head with a bitter laugh, as if utterly furious. You really are something. I knew you liked it, so I deliberately saved it for you. You say you don't want it, and just throw it away. I forced a weak smile. How about you scold me a few more times for being stupid, and then we'll just let this go, okay? When Yanqing flicked his sleeve and left a few days later, when Yanqing came again to visit me at my maternal grandparents' residence. In fact, lately he had been frequently visiting the household to see my grandparents, making them very happy, but I always avoided meeting him, pretending to be busy with business, because I was afraid he would ask me for the begonia jade hairpin. Only when you're in charge do you realize the hardships of daily life. I truly can't bear to part with 500 taels of silver, but today, when Yanqing specifically sought me out reluctantly, I went to the front hall to meet him. When Yanqing's voice was gentle, Zai, I've heard that the peach blossoms at Guqing Temple have been in full bloom these past few days. If you have time, how about we go see the mountain temple's peach blossoms? I shook my head. Lord Wen wouldn't have come just to invite me to admire the flowers, would he? Yes, and no. Your sister has her heart set on someone else, not me. And I quickly interrupted him. Stop. Don't think I'll help you, although you're good. I can't force my sister to feel anything. Do you think I'm good? When Yanqing's pupils lit up, I want to ask him, what is your focus? When Yanqing said again, actually, I had already discovered this matter and had already talked it over with your sister last year. I stayed by your sister's side, pretending to discuss marriage, all to shield her, not wanting her to suffer regret for the rest of her life. But now, everything has settled, and we no longer need to hide anything. What's this and that? What is my sister hiding? She doesn't even tell me. How could she let you know? When Yanqing let out a helpless sigh. If you were a bit more observant, you would have noticed long ago. Probably everyone in your family knows except you. When Yanqing, you're calling me clueless again. Never mind, that's not the point. The point is, I realized I don't actually like your sister. She's just an obsession of mine, like a dream bubble that bursts the moment you get close. Whenever I am alone, I always think of how you were by my side in my past life. Every day at court, I longed for it to end, and once it was over, I couldn't wait to rush home to see you. I think even then, I was already falling for you without realizing it. I was silent for a long time before saying calmly, Lord Wen, do you remember what you said in your past life? I know, but back then I was so deeply trapped in my obsession that I couldn't see through it. I cut him off. Lord Wen, you were truly good to me in my past life, which is why I've always said you're a good person. But for me, it's all in the past. When Yanqing stepped closer again, blocking the sunlight in front of me. Zai, it's not over. Give me a chance. Can we start over? Who wants to start over with you? A voice came from above, then a tall man leapt down from above, landing lightly between me and Wen Yanqing. It was Pei Yuan. Oh, how did you fall from the beam? I screamed in shock. Pei Yuan's voice was calm and deep. Did I scare you? It won't happen again. When Yanqing shouted at him, General Pei, how dare you trespass into the inner courtyard? What kind of conduct is this? Pei Yuan smiled. Thank you, Lord Wen, for your instruction. Not only did I enter the residence, but I also heard every word you said, so I must also give you a bit of advice. Heaven brought you back not to force others into impossible situations. When Yanqing held back his anger, a meaningful sneer tugging at the corner of his mouth. You've also been reborn. Yes, I came back when Miss Song sent me the first letter. You could say it was Miss Song who brought me luck. Then you should know that in her previous life, Song Zai was my wife, and we loved each other for a lifetime. So what, if it weren't for the blood on my hands and my unwillingness to bring harm to others, I would have stolen her from you without hesitation. At least for the 20 years after your death, Miss Song and I lived well together. It's only reasonable for us to be companions in our old age. Pei Yuan then turned to me. The blessed land your son chose is truly excellent right by my side. I turned and ran, wanting to hide back in the inner courtyard of my maternal grandmother's house. But Pei Yuan reached out and blocked me. I know you have that letter. I was stunned. How do you know? The letter was delivered by my secret guard, who watched you open it. He was crouching on the wall of my house the whole time. Pei Yi said, I have no intention of being disrespectful. I just want to say, given your temperament, if you hadn't wanted it, you would have destroyed the letter long ago. Why would you keep it? When Yanqing looked startled and leaned closer to me, what are you talking about? What letter? You sold the jade hairpin I gave you, but kept his letter. I muttered sullenly, Lord Wen, the matter is already settled. I'll return the 500 taels to you. Is it about money? I sighed. Lord Wen, apart from money, there's nothing left for us to talk about. When did I start disliking Wen Yanqing? Perhaps it was the words he spoke on his deathbed in my previous life that wounded my heart. Perhaps it was because the 20 years of widowhood without him weren't as difficult as I had imagined, or perhaps it was his guardedness and coldness toward me in this life while he was pursuing my sister. In short, I can no longer be as wholeheartedly devoted to him as I once was. I then turned to Pei Yuan and said, General Pei, could you please leave first? Allow us to have a few words. Half of Pei Yuan's face was in shadow, making his expression unclear, and his eyes were deep and unfathomable. After a long pause, he slowly spoke. All right, don't eavesdrop by climbing the wall. All right. The empty hall was left with only me and Wen Yanqing. I spoke calmly. Lord Wen, do you think we can go back to how we used to be? Wen Yanqing replied without hesitation, of course. Then do you think, if I could accept you saying you never liked me, and tolerate your coldness and harshness in this lifetime, would that Song Zai still be Song Zai? When Yanqing was stunned, I have always cherished myself, so that I have the strength to love others. How could I abandon my dignity and endure humiliation to be with someone who has hurt me again? One slip leads to another. I can't do it. That's not who I am. After a long pause, when Yanqing's voice was low, Zai, I'm sorry. Give me another chance. I'll treat you better than in my previous life. Even if I believe you, do you think I would be as trusting and sincere towards you as I was in my last life? Without any suspicion, when Yanqing fell silent again, I answered for him, I'm afraid you don't even believe it yourself, so let's not make things difficult for each other. When Yanqing left, he walked slowly, like a jade bamboo trembling slightly in the wind. My heart was also trembling, but I still turned around and walked away from him. I didn't look back even once. Later, Pei Yuan came again. This time for an official visit. My grandparents, with joy on their faces, urged me to go see him. He was dressed in a crimson robe, which made his handsome face radiant and his demeanor outstanding. My ears actually felt a bit warm. Pei Yuan took a deep breath, and his gentle, steady voice came through. Zai, the first thing I did after returning to the capital to report on my mission was to come to Jiangnan to find you. Having lived a second life, I know about your feelings for Wen Yanqing, but I still want to ask you, can you give me a chance? I twisted my handkerchief. I'm doing well now, I can earn money, and I have many friends. I don't necessarily need to get married. Hearing my words, Pei Yuan suddenly felt a surge of strength. He walked toward me and extended his long, strong hand. But you've seen my fate, and said I would get what I wish for, didn't you? My wish is for only you, and you've already signed the marriage contract. If you're unwilling, you can simply tear it up. I hurriedly said, that one doesn't count. Even if there's a marriage contract, it should be signed by someone else, because I'm going to take a son-in-law. Fine then, you take a son. In-law, those provisions will be your dowry. Now you should give me a proper status, and I will accompany you in doing everything you wish to do. I said I wanted to establish a folk kiln, to fire porcelain and glaze tiles, and he said yes. I said I also wanted to sail south to the southern seas to sell porcelain, traveling through the countries of the South China Sea, and he said he would go with me, as it would be a good opportunity to put his martial skills to use. I asked him, "Are you willing to give up being a general?" He replied, "Now that the seas are calm and peaceful, I have already returned my military authority to the emperor, choosing to preserve my wisdom and safety." I said I needed to think it over. He said there was no rush and told me to take my time before I could make up my mind. I received an urgent message from the capital, saying that my sister had been granted a marriage by the emperor. The person she was to marry turned out to be General Yang, who had made a name for himself by achieving the greatest merit during the recent unrest in the northwest. He was granted the title of Marquis of Zhunbei, and my sister became the Marquise. I returned to the capital to attend my sister's wedding, and for the first time, I saw her smile with all 10 teeth showing. She smiled like the largest peony in the garden. I almost didn't recognize her anymore. Sure enough, the brother-in-law who came to fetch the bride had sharp eyes and arched eyebrows, a man of striking appearance, yet he looked strangely familiar. Mother explained casually, "Oh, he used to be our family's horseman, then bought his freedom and joined the army." Ah, so the person my sister likes, the one she constantly thinks about, is actually him. No wonder in the previous life my sister refused the marriage and followed him to the northwest, and no wonder that time when Yanqing invited us for an outing, she disappeared for a while at the training ground even when Pei Yuan mocked her and told her not to go to the training ground again. She didn't get angry. She went to find her brother-in-law at that time. "Don't talk nonsense. Your sister has always behaved properly. It was your brother-in-law who relentlessly pursued her and insisted on achieving military merit to ask the emperor for a marriage," Mother said with conviction. I didn't argue with her, just chuckled. "Mother, are you satisfied now? Your sister has finally made it through, and now it's your turn to worry about." Let me tell you, just as she was speaking, my mother suddenly stopped. She patted my shoulder and gave me a meaningful look. "That person has feelings for you but is too shy to say it, so they've been trying to win over your sister and me instead." With that, she hurried off, following her gaze. I saw when Yanqing walking toward me. He stood beside me watching the ceremony, holding a crabapple jade hairpin, the one I had worn in my past life and sold in this one. He actually found it and brought it back. "You sold the hairpin to buy grain, didn't you?" I nodded resentfully. "For Pei Yuan." I glared at him when Yanqing actually smiled. "I know you're not that narrow-minded. You did it to prevent the people from starving to death, and also to keep your sister from repeating the same mistake. But I still want to ask, did you ever think about saving him?" This time I didn't deny it. It was just a small favor. When Yanqing continued, "Actually, in the previous life, before Pei Yuan became a monk, he gave me quite a few pieces of jewelry, saying he didn't need them anymore and asked me to take care of them." I immediately understood what he meant. "I asked you if you wanted someone else's jewelry. Guess what you said?" My heart jolted. "What?" "You said, 'I don't want those things at all. This one is enough.'" He raised that begonia jade hairpin. Under the sunlight, the jade was as smooth and gentle as water, held tightly in his grasp. "I still want to give it to you." My hands were behind my back, and I did not lift them. I thought I had already made my choice. A year has passed. Pei Yuan and I boarded a large ship, loaded with porcelain, and sailed south to the Nanyang. It was our first time at sea, yet we were terribly unlucky, encountering mountainous waves on a rainy night. Each wave was terrifyingly immense, as if trying to swallow the ship whole. We hid in the cabin, and I felt as though my internal organs were being shaken loose from my chest, unable to live, unable to die in the midst of raging waves. I even regretted the existence of this life. I should have rested peacefully in the blessed land chosen by my children, rather than suffering here under the oppressive weight of death. But when I looked up, I saw a handsome face, pale and ashen. He was in a terrible state, yet he clung tightly to me. using his body as a cushion, desperately shielding me within the soft quilt. Suddenly, I felt that it was worth it after all. Pei Yuan, do you like me? What did you say? A bolt of lightning struck down. I shouted loudly. I said, do you like me? Love, love, love. He kept shouting, drowning out the thunder, the wind, the rain, but not my heartbeat. I love you too, love you, love you. The next day, the storm subsided, and the sea calmed. Pei Yuan buried his head in the back of my neck, his warm breath brushing against my ear like a bite. Say what you said last night again. Okay, I won't. His tone softened further, as if casting a spell. Come on, say it. All right, I like you. How about you? Do you like me? I'll prove it to you. That night, I lay on the wooden bed, my whole body aching, and I started to regret it. I didn't expect him to prove it that way, and he had to do it 5 times. Just when I begged him not to prove it, he told me a secret. His feelings had started long before I even knew. When I was in my early teens, during a spring flower viewing party, I fell off a swing and hid behind a big rock, sobbing loudly. He saw me, my tears clinging to my eyelashes, blinking, and he felt like teasing me a little. Little girl, your eyelashes are so long. Can you give me a few? I actually pulled out a few and handed them to him, but back then, I couldn't tell the difference between eyelashes and eyebrows, so I plucked eyebrows instead. I also asked him, then what do you have to give me? From then on, he began collecting all sorts of interesting trinkets, beads, rings, jade pendants, intending to give them to me after my coming-of-age ceremony. It's just a shame that in my past life, there was no opportunity. In this life, I have finally gotten my wish. During the rainy season in Jiangnan, I often drink fine tea and do accounts on the 2nd floor of the shop, rarely opening the window. But whenever I open the window for fresh air, I always see a figure standing under the corner of a wall not far away. His face was hidden beneath the oil paper umbrella, solitary and fragile. Occasionally, he would meet my gaze, only to slowly lower his head as if unwilling to put me in a difficult position. Finally, one day, I walked up to him. Lord Wen, why go to such lengths? When Yanqing's voice was low and hoarse, this way is the least painful. My heart felt heavy and suffocated, but I still wanted to speak frankly with him. Do you know why I came looking for you? Because in our previous life at this time, we were soon to have a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. Those 2 children gave me a sense of maternal love and allowed me to experience the love of being a parent. I have let go of everything from my past life, but I just can't seem to let go of these 2 children. I still want to see them again. My thoughts. Pei Yuan also knew, and he didn't object. If you want it, just go ahead and do it. In the previous life, your children didn't make things difficult for me. They agreed to let me be buried beside you, allowing me to go down and take good care of you. In this life, being able to be with you is already enough for me. It's just that I am your rightful husband, so you should always hold a slightly larger place for me in your heart. He clung to me like a big dog until I agreed. When Yanqing's voice trembled intensely upon hearing my words, you still think about our children? I nodded. So, I want to have them with you again. I agree, but that's not all I want. I sighed. I've already taken a husband, so if you come, you can only be a secondary spouse. Are you willing? I heard when Yanqing's breathing become unsteady. He choked up. For a moment, I am willing. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. On the day my younger sister threw the embroidered ball to choose her husband, Xiao Jingyan, who had promised to be with me for a lifetime, actively caught my sister's embroidered ball. Everyone thought I would go and question him, but I just watched quietly without saying a word. Even when they saw them embracing in public, moved to tears, they applauded openly. No one knew that I had been reborn in my previous life. I believed in Xiao Jingyan's promise of a lifelong commitment and married him. But on the night of the wedding, my sister, who had long been involved with him, jumped into the lake and died. Upon hearing the news, Xiao Jingyan paid no mind and continued the wedding ceremony with me. Later, I used the full strength of my clan to help him ascend to the throne. However, after he became emperor, he did not make me his empress. Instead, he imprisoned my entire family and even had them all executed by slow slicing right before my eyes. After that, He turned me into a human swine and tortured me for an entire month at the brink of death, his eyes bloodshot. He glared at me, Jiang Guanyue, you poisonous woman, if it weren't for you forcing Aining to marry someone else, she wouldn't have jumped into the lake, if you weren't the legitimate daughter of the great general who guards the nation. Do you think I would have married you? Let me tell you, even without you, I could still become emperor. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my sister was throwing the embroidered ball. This time, I watched Xiao Jingyan eagerly waiting below and did not stop him. I will let him and Jiang Guanyue have their way, and see if he can still ascend to the throne without my father's help. Watching everything unfold below, my father clenched his fists tightly. This Xiao Jingyan is simply too much, never satisfied with what he has. He already promised to marry you, how could he go and snatch Waning's embroidered ball? Guanyue, don't worry, I will go and demand justice for you right now. I watched my father's furious expression, my eyes welling up with tears. The tragic end my father met in my previous life is still vivid in my mind, and all of that happened because I chose the wrong person. Given a second chance, I will never make the same mistake again. Father, I had just calmed my emotions, and before I could even utter the words I don't want to marry Xiao Jingyan again, he walked up, holding Jiang Guaning's hand. Xiao Jingyan glanced at me, his eyes filled with an unreadable emotion. He looked at his father, sighed, and said with a troubled expression, General Jiang, to be honest, Waning and I have already consummated our marriage. I have long sworn before the Buddha that I will marry no one but Waning. Hearing his words, gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd because everyone present today knows that Jiang Waning is merely the daughter of my father's former subordinate, while I am the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion. If he were to marry Jiang Waning, without the support of the general's mansion, the throne would likely be out of his reach. Hearing his words, I instinctively looked at him, just in time to catch a fleeting glimpse of hatred in his eyes. With just one glance, I knew that Xiao Jingyan had also been reborn. I was just about to tell my father to let the two of them be together when, in the next moment, Xiao Jingyan spoke up again. General Jiang, I know WN you cannot do without me. After much hesitation, I have decided to offer her the position of a consort. What do you think? Upon hearing Xiao Jingyan's words, the father's eyes widened in fury, his chest heaving with anger, and his voice stern. Xiao Jingyan, you go too far. Guanyue is the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion, and you dare to make her a concubine. Xiao Jingyan listened to his father's words and calmly bowed to him. He looked at me, his voice full of helplessness. Guanyue, you've chosen me, so I can't refuse. Considering your insistence on marrying no one but me, letting you into the manor as a concubine is already the limit. He leaned close to my ear, his voice low and filled with arrogance. It would be best not to be ungrateful. Xiao Jingyan, don't even think about it. WN you will never be your concubine. Father glared at Xiao Jingyan, completely disregarding his status. After all, Xiao Jingyan was merely the son of a palace maid and had never been favored by the emperor. But my father, he is a pillar of the state, commanding a million-strong army and covered in military honors. Xiao Jingyan listened to his father's words, his eyes darkening. Jiang Guaning, who had been hiding behind Xiao Jingyan, secretly tugged at his sleeve. She fell to her knees with a thud, tears streaming down her face before she even spoke. Sister, I beg you, Jingyan and I are truly in love. Please, grant us your blessing. Don't make things difficult for father. Jingyan gave me the position of principal consort because he was afraid that after you entered the mansion, you would torment me like before. Her tearful, pitiful appearance instantly stirred Xiao Jingyan's feelings of pity. He scooped her up in his arms and glared at me fiercely. Jiang Guanyue, from now on, don't even think about bullying Waning again. Watching the two of them so deeply in love, I found it all the more laughable. In her previous life, after Jiang Waning's father died, she was sold into a brothel by her stepmother. It was I who, seeing her pitiful state, begged my father to redeem her, brought her back to the mansion, and took her in as an adopted daughter. Not only did I teach her to read and write, but all her food, clothing, and daily necessities were also of the finest quality. Moreover, today, for the sake of her marriage, I gathered all the eligible young talents in the capital, allowing her to choose her own husband by tossing the embroidered ball. It wasn't until just before my death that I found out she had long since seduced Xiao Jingyan. What's more, she had already been intimate with him in my previous life. It wasn't until after I died that I learned Jiang Guaning had never actually drowned herself in the lake. The first thing she did after returning to Xiao Jingyan's side was to have my corpse whipped. Her eyes were filled with malice as she said, "Jiang Guanyue, so what if you were born noble? In the end, you still died. Everything you had is now mine." I looked at my father's worried expression and slowly shook my head. I walked over to my father and smiled brightly at him. "Father, since the two of them are in love, why not arrange a marriage for my sister and the fifth prince?" Upon hearing my words, my father's frown deepened. He thought I was prepared to follow Xiao Jingyan's suggestion and marry him as a concubine. "Guanyue, I absolutely cannot let you become a concubine." His gaze toward me was filled with frustration, as if he were disappointed in me. "Guanyue, you." Xiao Jingyan held Jiang Guaning in his arms and smiled triumphantly. Thinking I had given in, he was convinced that I was deeply in love with him, even to the point of refusing to marry anyone else. But he misunderstood. I walked over to my father, offering him a reassuring smile, my gaze shifting to the tall, lonely-looking young man. Not far away, in a voice only the two of us could hear, I said, "Father, I want to choose a different husband. Wang Qingyi is a good option." This disciple of my father, the eldest son of Prime Minister Wang, in my previous life, after my death, had done so much for me. Seeing me whispering and conspiring with my father, Xiao Jingyan thought I was persuading him. He impatiently furrowed his brows tightly. The next moment, my father looked at Xiao Jingyan and said, "Since you have chosen Waning, I have no reason to stop you. Go back and prepare the betrothal gifts." Upon hearing my father's words, Xiao Jingyan looked at me with satisfaction, then left with Jiang Guaning. After Xiao Jingyan left, I discussed with my father for a while longer before departing. As I stepped out of the room, I unexpectedly encountered Xiao Jingyan and Jiang Guanyue again. When he saw me, Xiao Jingyan's eyes were filled with rage. He took Jiang Guaning's hand and said coldly, "Jiang Guanyue, how vicious you are. Just out of jealousy, you withheld Guaning's monthly allowance and even skimped on her charcoal supply." I looked at Jiang Guaning's hands and frowned tightly. They were just red from the cold. If we went back inside now, they would probably recover in no time. I was about to argue, but Jiang Guaning shook her head with a pitiful expression. "Jingyan, I'm fine. Please don't argue with my sister because of me. I'm not cold. It's not the first time my sister has withheld my monthly allowance. I can endure it." Listening to her twisted words and seeing her feigned expression of grievance and forbearance, I was so angry that I laughed out loud. "Jiang Guaning, you know perfectly well whether I have ever withheld your monthly allowance." Xiao Jingyan clenched his fist tightly. "Jiang Guanyue, don't you dare try to argue your way out of this. Why can't you learn from Waning and be as understanding as she is?" I looked at Xiao Jingyan's matter-of-fact expression, scoffed, and no longer had the heart to argue with him. I raised my eyes to look at him and said word by word, "Everything you said is right, so now, can I leave?" Seeing that I didn't refute him, Xiao Jingyan was somewhat surprised. "Jiang Guanyue, why aren't you defending yourself anymore?" He looked at my frosty eyes and brows, sensing something was amiss. Remembering that I had not yet married him, he softened his tone. He cautiously stepped forward, attempting to take my hand. "Guanyue, it's good that you know your mistake. Today, you will give up your courtyard to Waning, and I will let bygones be bygones." I stepped back, avoiding his touch. "Xiao Jingyan, what if I refuse?" He thought I was still throwing a tantrum and snorted angrily. "Jiang Guanyue, don't be ungrateful. I've already given you enough face today. In the future, you will, after all, become my concubine. Everything about you should belong to me. Waning is, after all, the principal wife. What's wrong with her living in your courtyard? Moreover, it is only right and proper for you to give up the courtyard." Perhaps noticing my expression growing increasingly grim, he finally showed a hint of unease. After a long while, he added, "Guanyue, I know your feelings for me. Rest assured, once you enter the mansion, I will not let you suffer. Once Waning gives birth to a legitimate son, I will naturally give you a child too. Your efforts, I have seen them all. I looked at the impatience in Xiao Jingyan's eyes and the tone that seemed to grant a great favor, clenching my fists tightly in my previous life, to help him ascend to the throne. My father, at 60 years of age, still took to the battlefield, and later, maneuvered on his behalf in the imperial court. I also devoted myself wholeheartedly to managing his household affairs, and in the end, I ended up with nothing but a broken home and a ruined life. I could no longer bear it, raised my hand, and intended to slap him. The next moment, a gentle voice came from behind. Wanyue, WN Jian, shall we go to Chunfeng Tower for dinner together tonight? Xiao Jingyan turned around, looking at Wang Qingyi in surprise, his brows tightly furrowed, his voice filled with confusion. His gaze toward me was full of scrutiny. Jiang Wanyue, why did he ask you out for a meal? Upon seeing Wang Qingyi, I held back my temper, seeing that I didn't answer. Wang Qingyi walked up to me and glanced at Xiao Jingyan with an air of indifference. This matter has nothing to do with you. Xiao Jingyan's brows furrowed even more tightly. Just as he was about to ask further, Jiang, warning in his arms, spoke up. Jingyan, my hands are about to freeze. Can we go back? Xiao Jingyan looked at Jiang Warning, whose eyes were red, and tenderly draped the fox fur cloak over her. After doing all this, he turned to me and said sternly, Jiang Wanyue, you must not get entangled with other men. He still doesn't know that Wang Qingyi is my future husband, so how can he be considered an outsider? Xiao Jingyan, instead of wasting your breath here with me, why not prepare properly for your bandit suppression in 3 days? 3 days later would be the day Xiao Jingyan set out to suppress the bandits. In the previous life, Xiao Jingyan had not surveyed the terrain at all and rashly launched the attack without preparing sufficient provisions. In just 3 days, more than half of his troops were killed or injured. At that time, because I was worried about him, I asked my father to send someone to assist. In the end, it was only with my father's assistance that he succeeded in suppressing the bandits. Because of this incident, the emperor re-evaluated Xiao Jingyan's capabilities in this life. I want to see how Xiao Jingyan will complete this bandit suppression without my father's help. Upon hearing my words, Xiao Jingyan seemed to have thought of something. He immediately took Jiang Warning and left. After they left, Wang Qingyi spoke up. Wanyue, did you really choose me to be your husband? Wang Qingyi gazed at me, his eyes focused, filled with an undeniable depth of affection. I nodded and said, Wang Qingyi, this time, I will marry you. Wang Qingyi's hands trembled slightly as he handed me the jade pendant from his waist. Wanyue, this pendant has been with me for a long time. It is meant to be given to my future wife. Looking at his flushed ears, I smiled faintly, a playful thought crossing my mind. Is there anything else you want to say to me? Wang Qingyi suddenly clasped his hands and bowed to me, saying, I have long admired you, young lady. I wish to marry you as my wife, to be together for a lifetime, never to betray you. If I break this vow, may I be struck by lightning. Looking into his determined eyes, my heart suddenly trembled. I took the jade and fastened it at my waist. Wang Qingyi, I agree, in 7 days. Remember to come and take me through the door. After Wang Qingyi left, I returned to the courtyard. As I approached the door, I heard a clamor of noisy arguments. I looked up and saw a scene of utter chaos scattered all over the ground. My belongings were strewn everywhere, among which were even the heirlooms left to me by my grandmother. I looked at Xiao Jingyan and Jiang Warning in the courtyard, suddenly clenching my fist. Jiang Warning, why are you in my courtyard? My voice was hoarse, and as I looked at the emerald green bracelet on her hand, I could no longer hold back. That was my mother's favorite bracelet when she was alive. For so many years, I've never dared to wear it, afraid it might get damaged. But now, it's on her wrist. I stepped forward to snatch it, but Xiao Jingyan shoved me away. I told you before, this courtyard is to be given to Warning from now on. Since you're back, why don't you hurry up and move your things out? Jiang Warning looked at my reddened eyes, her gaze full of provocation, yet she still pretended to be afraid and said, Sister, I didn't mean to come. It was Jingyan who insisted on bringing me. Jingyan, sister is already angry. We should go. I'm so scared. Give the bracelet back to me. I trembled with anger. My voice sharp and stern. Xiao Jingyan held Jiang Warning in his arms, soothing her softly. Warning, you don't have to be afraid of her anymore. from now on, you will be my rightful wife, and she is nothing more than a concubine. Jingyan, sister is about to cry, please stop talking, I'll return it to her right away. After saying that, she took off the bracelet and tried to hand it to me. Sister, I just thought this bracelet looked pretty and wore it for fun. Please don't be angry, Xiao. Jingyan looked down at me from above and said, Jiang Guanyue, take it already. I'm telling you, only a woman like Wanning, who neither fights nor competes, is worthy of being my rightful wife. It's your good fortune to be able to become my concubine. I looked at the arrogance in Xiao Jingyan's eyes and felt so disgusted that I almost vomited. In my previous life, I was truly blind. Seeing my unpleasant expression, Xiao Jingyan snorted coldly, Jiang Guanyue, just obediently give up the courtyard, and everything will be fine. The veins on my forehead throbbed violently at his words. Looking at the jade bracelet on Jiang Guaning's wrist, I lost all desire to argue. I stepped forward, trying to retrieve the jade bracelet, but the next moment, Jiang Guaning suddenly flung the jade bracelet to the ground. The bracelet fell to the ground, shattering into pieces in an instant. In my ear, Jiang Guaning's provocative voice rang out, Jiang Guanyue, I will destroy everything you love. I raised my hand and slapped her fiercely. She fell into Xiao Jingyan's arms, her voice choked with sobs. Sister, I didn't mean to. Why did you hit me? She clung desperately to Xiao Jingyan's lapel, her eyes red and swollen. Jingyan, it hurts so much. Xiao Jingyan looked at the slap mark on Jiang Guaning's face with a pained heart. His eyes dark and gloomy. He took a few steps forward and grabbed my neck. Jiang Guanyue, can't you understand what I'm saying? I told you, from now on, don't bully Wanning. I looked at his ferocious expression, then glanced at the jade bracelet that had shattered into pieces, and roared out, don't touch me. Xiao Jingyan frowned as he saw my reddened eyes. For some reason, a sense of unease suddenly stirred in his heart. Remembering that he still needed my help for the bandit suppression 7 days later, he finally let go. Finally, only the words take care were left. Watching their smug figures, I clenched my fists. Their retribution will come soon. 3 days later was the day Xiao Jingyan set out to suppress the bandits. That day was also when Wang Chengyi came to deliver the betrothal gifts. Before setting out, Xiao Jingyan made a special trip to pay his respects to his father. My intention was clear. I wanted my father to fight for him just as he had in the previous life. My father flatly refused, however. He didn't care at all. He found me again, his eyes full of calculation. Jiang Guanyue, you must want me to return safely, right? These days, I think you've had enough time to calm down. Don't worry, as long as you persuade your father to send troops to help me suppress the bandits tomorrow, I will come to take you into the mansion. As he spoke, he leaned in to kiss me, and I backed away in disgust. He looked at my reaction and frowned tightly. Why are you and the previous life? I thought he probably meant to say why I am different from the previous life. However, he quickly realized something was wrong and stopped talking. Jiang Guanyue, I'll be waiting for your message. He has always been arrogant, probably never imagining that I might not marry him after all. Just as he was about to leave, Jiang Guaning hurried over. She carried a bundle on her back, looking as if she intended to follow him. Jingyan, I'm worried about you. I'd better stay with you. Jiang Guaning rushed over and wrapped her arms around Xiao Jingyan's waist. Xiao Jingyan looked at her with deep affection, gently stroking her hair. Wanning, be good. And wait for me to come back and marry you. A shadow flickered in Jiang Guaning's eyes, but then she forced a smile. Jingyan, I only feel at ease when I'm by your side. You go to suppress the bandits, and I will worry. Don't worry, I will write medical skills, and they will definitely be useful to you. The look of affection in Xiao Jingyan's eyes deepened even more. He picked up Jiang Guaning in one swift motion and lifted her onto the horse. All right, Guaning, let's go together. I watched the two of them sitting proudly on the horse, feeling more and more amused. Could it be that Jiang Guaning still thinks Xiao Jingyan will succeed in suppressing the bandits just like in the previous life? When Xiao Jingyan turned around, he happened to see my mocking smile. His eyes turned cold as he spoke. Wanning, being able to marry you is the greatest fortune of my life. You're not like some people, who have always been accustomed to fearing death and clinging to life. Listening to Xiao Jingyan's sarcastic remarks, I simply smiled gently. I watched their army march away and was just about to return to my residence. Unexpectedly, Wang Chengyi arrived with 100 chests of betrothal gifts. My father and I were about to have them moved inside. The next moment, I saw Xiao Jingyan riding back on his horse. He stared in disbelief at the scene before him, his eyes fixed intently on me, filled with unease in their depths. What is going on here? What exactly is the matter with this betrothal gift, Xiao Jingyan? What business is it of yours? I looked at him with cold eyes, his brow furrowed deeply, the atmosphere growing increasingly tense. His voice trembled slightly, the unease in his eyes growing more apparent as he tentatively began. Today was the day he was to go suppress the bandits, and naturally, I didn't want to shatter his beautiful dream. I raised my hand to stop Wang Chengyi, who was about to speak, and looked at Xiao Jingyan, saying, "Fifth Prince, it would be best for you to go suppress the bandits as soon as possible and not delay the appointed time." Jiang Wanning, nestled in his arms, spoke up at just the right moment. "Jingyan, don't you understand my sister? She must have discussed it with Wang Chengyi long ago. Even if it means sacrificing her own reputation, she wants to make you jealous." Upon hearing Jiang Wanning's words, Xiao Jingyan thought of my deep affection for him in the past and finally felt reassured. He snorted coldly. "Jiang Wanning, I knew it." After saying that, he ignored my reaction and rode away on his horse. After he left, I breathed a sigh of relief. I smiled and took Wang Chengyi's hand. "Chengyi, father is waiting for you in the banquet hall." One day later, it would be my wedding date with Wang Chengyi. After dressing up neatly, I sat in the boudoir waiting for Wang Chengyi's wedding procession. Just yesterday, I received a letter from Xiao Jingyan. Between the lines, there is a tone of accusation. He is blaming me for why father has not yet sent troops to assist him. I laughed out loud at the furious tone in his letter. In this lifetime, he will have to rely solely on himself to suppress the bandits. Wang Chengyi's wedding procession arrived very soon. I sat in the bridal sedan chair and quickly arrived at the Xie residence. He gently carried me out of the sedan chair, and just as we were about to perform the wedding ceremony, we suddenly heard the voice of Xiao Jingyan. He was clad in armor, with disheveled hair, looking utterly disheveled, and only a few guards followed behind him. "Jiang Wanyue." I heard his roar and looked at him in surprise. How could he have returned so quickly? Seeing that it was really me, he stared in disbelief. His hands trembled slightly as he tried to approach me. "Jiang Wanyue, is it really you? How could you marry someone else?" "Wang Chengyi, you despicable man." He charged forward aggressively, grabbing Wang Chengyi by the collar. However, he was not as tall as Wang Chengyi to begin with, and his entire appearance was disheveled, so his presence naturally felt weaker. Wang Chengyi listened to Xiao Jingyan's words and simply chuckled softly, pushing Xiao Jingyan aside. "Fifth Prince, what are you talking about? You are engaged to Wanning, but it was you who told her father that you would marry no one but Jiang Wanning. Has it only been 7 days, and you've already forgotten all about it?" Wang Chengyi's tone was completely devoid of emotion, and Xiao Jingyan's gaze turned toward me. His hands trembled even more violently, and his eyes instantly reddened. "Impossible. I clearly said I would make you my concubine, and you agreed. Your father even told me to go back and prepare for the wedding in peace. How could this be?" Looking at his dazed and bewildered expression, I curled my lips. "Fifth Prince, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. What my father said was for you to go back and prepare for the wedding with my sister." At this moment, Xiao Jingyan finally understood everything completely. His breath caught, his face turning deathly pale. "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Jiang Wanyue, you liked me so much, how could you possibly?" He was still muttering to himself. The guests attending the banquet all looked at him with disdain, their brows tightly furrowed. The fifth prince truly lives up to being born of a palace maid, just like his maid mother, an insatiable wretch. Having the younger sister isn't enough, he even wants to marry the elder sister. He doesn't even consider that Jiang Wanning is the legitimate daughter of the great general who guards the nation. How could she possibly become his concubine? Exactly, he's an unfavored prince. If he hadn't latched onto the general's mansion, who would willingly serve as his advisor? The disdainful words of the crowd reached Xiao Jingyan's ears, and he roared out, "Shut up!" I watched his frenzied state with disgust, my brow furrowing tightly. Fifth prince, there's no use in saying more. If you're here for the wedding feast, please take your seat quickly. Wang Qingyi spoke coldly. Xiao Jingyan could no longer hold back. He stepped forward and threw a punch at Wang Qingyi's face. Wang Qingyi frowned and dodged, then kicked Xiao Jingyan in the waist. Xiao Jingyan fell to the ground in an instant. His gaze turned to me again, filled with regret and pleading. Jiang Guanyue, I know you resent me for not keeping my word, this time going out to suppress the bandits. I have come to realize how important you are to me, Guanyue. As long as you come with me now, I will marry you as my equal wife. You will be on equal footing with Wanning. In the future, I will also visit you more often. Seeing that I remained silent, he thought I was considering his words. His eyes instantly filled with wild joy as he stepped forward, trying to take my hand. Guanyue, come with me. After you return, could you ask your father to send someone to suppress the bandits for me? Guanyue, just yesterday, Wanning was kidnapped by bandits, and we still don't know if she's alive or dead. The soldiers I brought with me have suffered more than half casualties. This time, as long as you persuade your father to help me resolve this matter, I promise to treat you well from now on. Seeing the probing look in the man's eyes, I laughed out loud. To this day, even when he needs my help, he still acts as if he's above everyone else. Besides, how does he manage to be so confident? Why on earth does he think that he loves him as if his life depends on it? I shook off his hand and suddenly slapped him. Fifth prince, it's best not to indulge in wishful thinking. Wang Qingyi and I are in love, and I am willingly marrying him. What you said about equal wives is truly absurd. As for the Wanning you mentioned, your highness may not yet know, my father had already removed her from the family registry when she followed you to suppress the bandits. She was nothing more than a beggar I picked up from the roadside. My father, out of pity, took her in as an adopted daughter. Yet for your sake, she disregarded the reputation of the general's mansion and engaged in improper relations with you before marriage. The general's mansion cannot afford to lose face like this. Fifth prince, from now on, it would be best if you stopped pestering me. As my words fell, his eyes were instantly shrouded in despair. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked at my increasingly indifferent expression, shaking his head desperately and roaring out, why is this different from the previous life? Jiang Guanyue, you were clearly meant to marry me. Impossible. You cannot marry someone else. He finally spoke the words of rebirth. I looked at the madman before me and pursed my lips tightly. Wang Qingyi, standing by my side, noticed my impatient expression and immediately called for someone. The fifth prince has failed in suppressing the bandits. He is now mentally unstable. Someone, escort the fifth prince back to his residence. Xiao Jingyan's eyes finally showed a hint of panic as he stared at me intently. Guanyue, I know I was wrong. From now on, I will have only you. I won't marry Wanning anymore. Please, come away with me. Watching Xiao Jingyan's disheveled state, I stepped toward him under the contemptuous gazes of the crowd. I leaned down, close to his ear, and whispered, what a pity. Xiao Jingyan, I forgot to tell you, I am also reborn. With that, I stood up and stepped on the back of his hand. Hurry and escort the fifth prince back to his residence. That day, Wang Qingyi and I successfully performed the wedding ceremony and became husband and wife. 1 month later, Wang Qingyi achieved the top rank in the imperial examination at that time. Xiao Jingyan was confined to his mansion for reflection due to his failure in suppressing bandits. He failed in the bandit suppression and fled from the battlefield to rescue Jiang Guaning. The entire army was annihilated. The emperor was already extremely displeased with him. The advisors and strategists in his household also chose to leave when he encountered trouble, all because I did not marry him. It is said that when Xiao Jingyan found Jiang Guaning, she was being humiliated under the chief of the mountain stronghold. Jiang Guaning had served no fewer than 100 men in the mountain stronghold. When Xiao Jingyan found her, he went completely mad. To avenge Jiang Guaning, he raised his blade and charged forward. The leader of the stronghold had crawled out from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, so Xiao Jingyan was naturally no match for him. In the end, Xiao Jingyan was also captured alive. Not only that, but he also had a finger cut off, demanding the court to ransom him. In the end, the emperor sent my father to suppress the bandits. And only then were they completely wiped out. I saw Xiao Jingyan again at a palace banquet. He was in a sorry state all over, with his face covered in bruises, likely injuries from the bandits. Jiang Guaning was not by his side. Once inseparable as conjoined twins, they now did not even attend palace banquets together. Those around them were whispering among themselves, "Is that the fifth prince, Xiao Jingyan? He has completely disgraced the royal family, yet he still has the nerve to attend the palace banquet. If I were him, I would have hanged myself long ago." Upon hearing their words, Xiao Jingyan's body stiffened, his gaze shifted toward me, and seeing how intimate I was with Wang Changyi, his eyes instantly reddened. In his eyes, there was no longer the arrogance that had been there before. Since Xiao Jingyan's failure in suppressing the bandits, he had lost all possibility of ascending the throne. Without my father, there was no one left in the court to handle affairs for him. He himself could not bring himself to swallow his pride. From then on, Xiao Jingyan had no chance of ascending the throne. He clenched his fists tightly. Watching this scene, I let out a cold laugh. Everything he faced now was the result of his own actions. Seeing the coldness in my eyes, Wang Changyi passed the dish I loved to me. His voice was gentle. "Wanyue, try this." I looked into the depth of affection in his eyes, gently took his hand, and gave him a smile. In my previous life, after learning of my death, he lay low for many years to avenge me. I knew that in my previous life, it was he who poisoned Xiao Jingyan after becoming the prime minister, causing him to die young. Not long after Xiao Jingyan's death, he took his own life for me. Wang Changyi's deep affection must not be betrayed. Therefore, in this life, after being reborn, I made a decisive choice without hesitation. The facts have proven that in this life, I did not make the wrong choice. Wang Changyi still achieved the top score in the imperial examination. After marriage, he treated me extremely well. Even in small matters, he was meticulous in every detail. How fortunate I am to have met someone who loves me so deeply. Before the palace banquet had ended, Wang Changyi was summoned by the emperor. Inside the hall, music and dance filled the air with joy. I began to feel a bit dizzy from drinking too much wine, so I went to the imperial garden to clear my mind. I had just sat down in the pavilion when, unexpectedly, I heard the voice of Xiao Jingyan. In the next moment, his voice was hoarse as he embraced me from behind. "Wanyue, I finally see you again." Feeling the scorching body heat of the person behind me, I suddenly felt a wave of nausea. I struggled violently, screaming out, "Don't touch me, Wanyue. I've already dismissed all the palace attendants. Don't worry, please, just give me half an hour." Xiao Jingyan, seeing me struggle fiercely, ultimately just grabbed my hand. His eyes were bloodshot. "Wanyue, I know I was wrong. Back then, I shouldn't have had a secret affair with Jiang Guaning. It was all that wretched woman. She seduced me. If it weren't for her seduction, I wouldn't have lost you, nor will I lose everything that is within easy reach." His eyes were filled with a look of madness, tinged with a hint of regret. I sneered and slapped him hard. "Xiao Jingyan, you are truly ridiculous. He has always been arrogant, and now, even though he has clearly reached the end of his rope, he still resents others." Unthinking of the tragic state of my family in my previous life, I clenched my fist and slapped him once more, yet he stubbornly tugged at the corner of my clothes. "Wanyue, I know you resent me. Back then, I was truly bewitched, but I truly know I was wrong. Wanyue, come away with me. I know you care for me. You're just saying these things in anger. If you come with me, you will still be my rightful wife. From now on, I will live only for you. There will be no other women. By the way, it's all that wretched Jiang Guaning's fault. Don't you hate her? Don't worry, from now on, no matter how you treat her, I won't interfere anymore." I looked at this man who was desperately clutching the hem of my clothes, his eyes filled with pleading, eagerly trying to win me over, but all I could think of was his vicious face from my past life when he turned me into a human swine. In my past life, for Jiang Guaning, he could slaughter my entire family. What difference would it make in this life? This man has always only loved himself. Xiao Jingyan is now begging me, simply because he has realized his current predicament. He doesn't know his wrong, he's just afraid. Looking at his increasingly cold eyes, he suddenly fell to his knees at my feet with a thud. He suddenly slapped himself hard. "Wanyue, in my previous life, I didn't mean to. After you died, I regretted it. In my previous life, after you died, Jiang Guaning appeared. Only then did I realize that her jumping into the lake was fake. I was completely deceived by her. You are in my heart. I promised you a lifetime with just the two of us, but in my previous life, I failed to keep that promise. But this time, I will definitely make it happen. I won't break my word again. Wan Yue, I beg you, please divorce Wang Qingyi. I will marry you. I will make you my princess, and in the future, if I ascend the throne, you will be the empress. Wan Yue, as long as you are still willing to marry me, I will do anything. You hate Jiang Guaning, so let's have her executed by 1,000 cuts. Alright. I looked at the madness in the man's eyes and kicked him squarely in the chest. Xiao Jingyan, stop dreaming. You're nothing but a cripple now. What makes you think I would still choose you? Xiao Jingyan, you're not worthy. Let me tell you, Wang Qingyi and I are deeply in love, and our feelings are mutual. I looked down at him with a condescending gaze, watching his increasingly despairing expression, and I laughed out loud. Xiao Jingyan, do you think that after experiencing my past life, I would still have any feelings for you? I was just about to leave when, unexpectedly, I suddenly saw Jiang Guaning, who had already been disfigured. She was dressed in palace-made attire, and it was unclear when she had arrived. However, she must have already heard what Xiao Jingyan had just said. Her eyes were red and swollen. Seeing that I was about to leave, she blocked my path. Sister, I know I was wrong. Back then, I never intended to betray you. It was Xiao Jingyan. He was drunk and forced me onto the bed. He ruined my innocence, and I had no choice but to marry him. I know I was wrong. Sister, I shouldn't have wronged you back then. You treated me so well. Sister, please, I beg you, forgive me. From now on, I'm willing to serve you as a slave or a maid, just to have a place to call home. I looked at the slap mark on her face and turned my gaze to Xiao Jingyan. It seems Jiang Guaning hasn't had an easy time this past month either. Right now, Xiao Jingyan probably wants to beat her to death. Sure enough, upon hearing her words, Xiao Jingyan waved his hand in disbelief and slapped her face. You bitch, back then, it was clearly you who seduced me, saying you couldn't live without me, that you had admired me for so long. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have grown distant from Wan Yue. Jiang Guaning was never one to endure grievances. Today, with this commotion she caused, Xiao Jingyan would likely never keep her around again. She was no longer willing to endure it either. She pulled the hairpin from her head and lunged at Xiao Jingyan. Her face was filled with a sinister expression. Sister WNU, if I kill him, can I return to your side? I must hate him to death. I'll kill him for you right now. Watching the two people who were once deeply in love in my previous life turn on each other like dogs, I suddenly felt utterly bored. Jiang Guaning, it's all your fault, you wretched woman. You whore who's been ridden by thousands and slept with by tens of thousands. Back then, in the bandit den, I shouldn't have saved you. Xiao Jingyan pushed Jiang Guaning away and stepped on her chest. His appearance in this life overlapped with that of his previous one. My head suddenly ached terribly. I thought to myself, if the two of them could perish together today, that would be even better. Xiao Jingyan snatched the hairpin from Jiang Guaning's hand, his eyes bloodshot. Having long lost all reason, he thrust the hairpin into Jiang Guaning's neck. Jiang Guaning stared at him with a deathly gaze, and after a moment, blood gushed forth as she ceased to breathe. Xiao Jingyan had gone mad. He really killed Jiang Guaning with his own hands. Xiao Jingyan looked at me with a pleading expression, raising his hand as if to grab the hem of my skirt. Wan Yue, look, I killed her with my own hands. Can you forgive me now? I stepped back, and the next moment, I bumped into someone's arms. It was Wang Qingyi. He held the trembling me in his arms, softly comforting. Wan Yue, don't be afraid, I'm here. Around him stood the ministers, and not far away, the emperor with an inscrutable expression. They must have all witnessed the scene just now, where Xiao Jingyan killed Jiang Guaning. In the end, the emperor ordered the deranged Xiao Jingyan to be taken away. 6 months later, I became pregnant. One day, Wang Qingyi returned from court and brought back the news of Xiao Jingyan's death. Since that day, Xiao Jingyan had been confined to his royal residence, forbidden to leave for life without a summons. He suffered from a lack of clothing and food every day, tormented by the servants. In less than half a year, The wine seller's hair had turned grey after that. He actually still wanted to see me naturally. I did not let him off easily. I arranged for eunuchs to beat him day and night. As I was about to give birth, the news of Xiao Jingyan's death from torment reached my ears. I smiled with satisfaction. Everything from the past was over, and I had avenged myself and my family from the previous generation after hearing the 2 stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.